Members of the council, I'd like to welcome you all here tonight to this public hearing. I'd like to call this public hearing to order, and I will read the official meeting notice into the record. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is to take up action on number 1, settlement of litigation, Metcalf and Eddy. Number 2 has been withdrawn. That is the pension contributions. That one has been withdrawn. So we won't be dealing with number 2 tonight on the agenda. Number 3, government entities, Code of Ordinance, Section 2-176. Number 4, adjunct parking lease, 20 Bacchus Avenue. And number 5, wireless edge lease. Meeting will be held at 7 p.m. Monday, February 22nd, 2010, in the 3rd floor, Common Council Chambers, 155 Deerfield Avenue. This meeting is attested by the site assistant. And I would ask the clerk, before we call the roll, I would like to ask all members to stand. Let's do the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Arconti.
Present.
Curran.
Here.
Demichi. Here. Riley. Seabury. Stanley. Taylor.
Present.
Cola.
Here.
Nagersha.
Here.
Hallis.
Here.
Cabo.
Here.
Sadi. Visconti.
Here.
Trombetta. Knapp.
Here.
Nero.
Here.
Perkins.
Present.
Genies. Rotello.
Here.
Teicholz. Present. Tumino.
Here. Let the record please reflect that there are 15 members present, 6 absent. Mr. Seabury is out of town on business. Mrs. Stanley is out of town on business. Mr. Trombetta is at a business meeting. He hopes to be joining us shortly. Mr. Sadi is away on military duty. Mr. Chayanese is attending to business as well. I believe he'll be joining us a little bit later. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear public comment on the 4 items that we're going to be taking up tonight. As I had said earlier in the call, that item number 2, pension contributions, Code of Ordinance, has been withdrawn for tonight's meeting. So we will move right into settlement of litigation, Metcalf and Eddy. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council on item number 1, settlement of litigation, Metcalf and Eddy? Any member of the public wishing to address the council on item number 1, settlement of litigation, Metcalf and Eddy? Any member of the public wishing to address the council on settlement of litigation, Metcalf and Eddy? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 3, government entities. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council on government entities? Any member of the public wishing to address the council on government entities? Any member of the public wishing to address the council on government entities? Number 4, adjunct parking lease, 20 Bacchus Avenue. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council on item number 4, adjunct parking lease, 20 Bacchus Avenue? Any member of the public wishing to address the council on adjunct parking lease, 20 Bacchus Avenue? Marcus?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Neil Marcus, Tone Wolf PC, here on behalf of Erstad Biddle, UB Danbury Properties, and with me over here, we have Wing Biddle, who's got a drawing in front of you, which we'd like to present just very briefly. The subcommittee of the Common Council that was appointed to hear the petition from the Airport Plaza to add additional parking has already seen this, but just very briefly, most of you know the Airport Plaza. It was formerly the home of Boston Billiards for many years on Bacchus Avenue. And currently, there are a couple of new tenants that are looking to take up some of the empty space. One of them being Chuck E. Cheese, which is about to open up, and the other being Buffalo Wild Wings, which is an interest in taking over the space that was formerly occupied by Fortunoff's. And in connection with the lease of this property for many years, we have leased two yellow areas here. If you can see it very quickly. The yellow areas represent the current leased areas from the city of Danbury, which basically is a part of the airport property. Those leases are currently in place. We've got the green area, which we've outlined on the right side of this map. If you're facing on my right, the green area is what's before the the city council. God, I'll never learn. I'll still call it DATAR instead of ability, and I'll probably call you guys the city council for a few years, but I'll eventually catch on. Before the city council is a proposal to lease the area here for additional parking, which adjoins us again as it's part of the airport property. And the proposal is to lease it under terms similar to those that we currently have in effect. We've done appraisals to come up with a lease value that's been acceptable, of course, to the council on the other sections of the property. The additional leased area is for the benefit of Buffalo Wild Wings, because they have proposed a facility that will require additional parking for the zoning requirements for that type of use. Quite honestly, there's some discussion with Wild Wings as to whether there would be enough parking under their needs, but it's really not a question of what their needs are, it's a question of what the city zoning regs are. And to meet the city zoning for the proposed seating in the restaurant, they've requested that we lease from the city the additional parking. Now, that's a quick overview. The subcommittee has heard this at great length and has brought it before you for the hearing this evening. The terms of the lease have been worked out, we hope, with the Corporation Council. It includes some language that was recommended by the Planning Commission on its 824 referral. All of that is in place. What we need at this point is an affirmative vote to move forward with the actual lease as proposed. That's the overview. Wing Biddle is here. He'll answer any questions that I can't answer. And so we're here to make a brief presentation just to tell you why we're petitioning the city for this property. If you're familiar with it, it's an area which really is not getting much use currently. Over the years, I think they used to play soccer adjacent to this property, but now there's a horseshoe area in the rear. We're not going to affect that, but the parking will attach to our existing parking lot. So that's the proposal. If I can answer any questions, we'd be happy to do it.
Mr. Marcus, during the public hearing part, we just listened to comment. We open the committee of the whole, we go into an ad hoc group, and then we can certainly, members certainly can ask you questions.
We're here. I just wanted to give you a quick overview as to what we were proposing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to address the council on item number 4, adjunct parking lease 20 Bacchus Avenue? Is there any other member of the public wishing to address the council on the adjunct parking lease 20 Bacchus Avenue? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 5, wireless edge lease. Any member of the public wishing to address the council on wireless edge lease? Any member of the public wishing to address the council on the wireless edge lease? Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on the wireless edge lease? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have Mr. Costello, seconded by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any negatives? Any abstentions? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. At this time, I'll open the committee of the whole, and we will move right into the agenda for the committee of the whole this evening. I'd ask the clerk if she would please just call the roll one more time, and would you also report that Mr. Cheney's provided some five for the public one.
Arconti.
Present.
Curran.
Here.
Demichi. Riley. Seabury. Stanley. Taylor.
Here.
Cola.
Here.
Negrisha.
Here.
Callis.
Here.
Cabo.
Here.
Sadi. Visconti.
Here.
Trombetta. Knapp.
Here.
Nero.
Here.
Perkins.
Present.
Gianese.
Present.
Rotello.
Here.
Ty Schultz. Present. Tomino.
Here.
Would the record reflect that 16 members are present, 5 are absent, and we'll let the absences from the public hearing carry over into the committee of the whole record for the report. Okay, item number 1, settlement of litigation. I was hoping that I could ask Mr. Pinter if he would just give us a brief overview, because I think the settlement of litigation is probably not the right choice of words, because I think we've already agreed to do that. It's just a matter of the funding of that is what we're taking up tonight. If I'm correct.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, item number 1 is really phase 2 of the issue which was brought up to you and you approved when you settled this litigation of Metcalf and Eddy versus the City of Danbury. You may recall that it was in, I believe in November or maybe December, that you had adopted a motion after hearing in closed session about this litigation regarding the landfill that went on for a number of years, that you authorized the settlement of that litigation, and together with that authorization, you also permitted the funding of the payment of the settlement from municipal bonding. And that's the phase that's here before you tonight. You'll see in your packet probably that the documents regarding item number 1 are essentially a series of, well, there's actually one resolution, which is thankfully is what we need. But the resolution authorizes, upon adoption by the Common Council, authorizes the borrowing of $1,840,000 for purposes of taking care of this matter. And in the past, the council, as always in the past, been authorized by the charter to allow for bonding by a 2/3 vote of the council, which you don't need a 2/3 tonight, you'll need it in 1 second. But you'll need a 2/3 at that point to authorize the borrowing. And by authorizing the borrowing, you will comply with your original motion of settling the litigation back in November and take care of this case once and for all. So what you're being asked to do tonight is to consider and possibly adopt, if that's your choice, the recommendation to the full council next Tuesday, the adoption of this ordinance to borrow this amount of money, issue bonds, and our bond counsel, Robinson & Colden Hartford, will take care of the paperwork involved in the issuance. So there's a motion that is consistent with past motions as recommended by bond counsel, with the council, if the city council chooses to make that recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Pinter? Kelly?
Mr. President, through the chair, what's the term of that bond, the length of the interest rate of that bond? I'm not familiar with that. If you could just clarify that.
That would be directed by Mr. St. Hilaire.
We haven't settled on the terms of the bond, but we estimate it'll be about an 8-year bond. It'll be just over 2%, about 2.25%. That's going to fluctuate, but that's about what the rates are.
Thank you.
Mr. Max, can you
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, President, or whatever we're calling you these days. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the adoption of an ordinance appropriating $1,840,000 for
for the settlement of litigation against the city in the matter of Metcalf and Eddy, Inc. versus the city of Danbury, and authorizing the issuance of $1,840,000 bonds of the city to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
Motion was made and seconded by Mr. Visconti. Any discussion? Mr. O'Dell?
Thanks. So through the chair to Director St. Hilaire. Do you have an estimate, Mr. St. Hilaire, of what our carrying cost would be per year during the lifetime of this bond? Is it approximately, what, $200,000 a year?
The total cost, yeah, approximately, not per year, total. For the interest.
Would we normally pay approximately $200,000 per year for this, or how would we normally do that? I mean, we're borrowing $1.8 million for 8 years, or financing it or bonding it.
Right.
So we divide 1.8 by 8. Is that normally how you pay more in the beginning, or a little bit less in the beginning and more to go?
Well, I mean, basically our average, if you're looking at what our average payment would be, it would be about, $260, $265, $270.
Okay. Now, the other thing, that we now, after the charter revision voted in the voters voted on it, we now have a per year strict ceiling on bond, which I think is $2.5 million per year. Is that correct? Three is three. So that would leave us with about 1.2 in pre-referendum bonding, because it's only February.
Well, that's for this current year.
That's what I'm saying, right? And the current year ends when?
6/30/10.
Ends in June.
Right.
So we would have March, April, May, June. We have 4 months.
Just under 1.2, because this authorizes 184.
Okay, and then the clock starts all over again after June. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll try your minds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Government entities. Mr. Pinter. Could you just give us a brief description of the government entities that we do?
Sure, thank you, Mr. President. The Government Entity Review Committee is established annually pursuant to the provisions of the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2-175, and the balance of that section. A committee of council people, as well as 2 private citizens, comprises the committee. The committee each year reviews a rotating list of city agencies, such as planning, such as flood and erosion control, and Tarawa Park. The last 2 of those are the ones that were considered this year. The council has to develop that committee in December, has to meet and report out not later than the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, but most of the time way before that. That's the case this year. It was nice. It was nice and early. The committee met. The committee did a good job reviewing these 2 entities. And in essence, the committee reported out, or is reporting out to the full council, that they are recommending the renewal for 5 additional years. Both of those, the operation of both of those entities, the Flood and Erosion Control Board, which by statute is the City Council. The Tarawa Park Authority is the authority that operates mostly on its own, has a lot of its own budget money, has leases, has rentals, has other independent authority. So those 2 entities/authorities are recommended to you for redesignation for additional 5 years pursuant to that section of the ordinances, and that's the proposal that the committee is offering to you. If you do adopt that, you'll be recommending again back to the next Tuesday City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Pinter. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Pinter? I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Negushan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to recommend in accordance with Section 2-184 of the Danbury Code of Ordinances, the reestablishment of the Flood and Erosion Control Board and the Tarawa Park Authority through June 30th, 2015.
Motion was made second by Mr. Kohler. Under discussion? Seeing none, I'll try your minds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, adjunct parking lease. Mr. Pinter. Please,
Thank you. I'll try to make my comments brief so I don't keep it too long.
in the back of your head as much camera time as possible.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean, remember that. Item number 4 has to do with the issue that Attorney Marcus addressed to you in the public hearing session. In as brief terms as I can possibly provide to you, the property that is at the perimeter of the airport on Bacchus Avenue that you saw on the map that was provided by Attorney Marcus is property that largely has already been leased by Danbury to this applicant for a number of years, and the predecessor applicant as well. There are 2 parking lots. There's a side parking lot immediately adjacent to what used to be the Boston Billiards facility, and there's a rear parking lot immediately behind the entire shopping facility. Those 2 properties are owned by the city of Danbury. There's jurisdiction over those properties on the part of the Federal Aviation Administration because over the many decades the FAA has provided construction and other operational and capital funding to the city of Danbury. So they do have some say, but it's city property. The request from the applicant came in the lease is expired for those 2 properties I was addressing before, the side lot and the rear lot. Since they expired, the applicant came in, asked if the city would be willing to renegotiate or renew those leases. A committee of the council that you designated, chaired by Councilman Knapp, met probably more often than anyone would like to be meeting in a committee, but the committee again here did a fabulous job in collaborating with all affected parties and recommended to the council, you may recall this from January, recommended to the council that the 2 base leases, the side and the rear parking lot, be approved, subject to further application and review by different city departments. You approved those base leases. What you did not approve at the time, because you wanted officers to review that 3rd item, is this 3rd lease. That's the lease that's before you tonight. The 3rd lease, what we call the adjunct parking area, is a parking area comprising somewhere between 30 and 50 spaces immediately to the left. If you're looking at the shopping plaza, immediately to the left of the side parking area. It fronts on Bacchus Avenue, and the property is now a grassy area. In the back of this grassy area, toward the airport runways and taxiways, is the horseshoe facility. Okay, so this is in front of that. It does not affect the horseshoe facility directly. They're not really that close to each other. But what the applicant is seeking from you is the lease of this additional parking area to be able to build out 2 properties. The Boston Billiards facility, which now will be Chuck E. Cheese, and the Fortune House facility, which they are proposing to turn into a Buffalo Wild Wings restaurant. Both flourishing operations. UB Danbury, as the landlord, wants to do this as quickly as possible. Time is of the essence, essentially, because Buffalo wants to come in, Chuck E. Cheese wants to come in. So what they're asking for, and what we've been working with them and the committee on, is the terms, conditions of the adjunct parking lease. We've largely come to terms on that lease, and although you don't have a copy of the final document, the committee had a copy of the then near final lease. And the lease basically mimics the other 2 leases, except it's for a different site, smaller than the other site, somewhat smaller than the other site, and it's for the adjunct parking. Now, since last Thursday, when Jack's committee met and discussed this, we've had several exchanges with UB Danbury and council, and what we had today, late today, was a proposed final lease. And the proposed final lease addressed not only issues of concern that our office had, but issues of concern that the Planning and Zoning Department had, which resulted last week in a negative report from the Planning Commission. Those issues, we believe, have been overcome at this point. So the leases that we have today, this afternoon, and tonight, which you'll see next Tuesday, because again, you get another bite of this apple next Tuesday. The leases that we have, we think are ready for approval by you, if you want to approve the lease. The issue of the approved lease is all yours, but legally, the leases are okay. We just have to do one final review of a couple of issues, but they're not material issues. We have to make sure that the site plan is attached, is the proper site plan, and we have a draft site plan that's being attached to the leases. Now, what do we do with the Planning Commission's negative report? What I'm recommending to you is that if you authorize the approval of this adjunct lease tonight for that extra property, that you approve it conditionally on a couple of things. One is that the Federal Aviation Administration has blessed this final lease, that the Planning Commission, Planning Department have reviewed this lease, and specifically that the Planning Commission issues a positive report, changing its negative report, when it next meets on March 3rd. March 3rd is the day after the council meeting. So what we're suggesting you do if you want to do this, is that next Tuesday, if it's your desire, if you recommend tonight to approve these leases, you recommend approval of the leases, next Tuesday, if you do vote to approve the leases, that you approve it conditional on a positive report from the Planning Commission. That allows you, everybody, to overcome the negative report that they had. And we think they're overcome already because of what we received and the final leases that are in our hands. However, in order to do it properly, we don't want to remove from the City Council the opportunity to override the Commission's negative recommendation if it comes back negative. We don't think it'll come back negative, but we have to follow that procedure pretty carefully. So anyway, bottom line is the adjunct lease for this property, we've reviewed it. We feel that if the Council recommends its approval tonight, we will have the final draft for you next Tuesday, and then you can approve that conditionally on these other issues I mentioned.
So you feel that Planning Commission will have, or already has information before them that would make them give us a positive recommendation? The questions have been answered sufficiently that we feel okay with this?
Yes, we think that the Planning Commission's stipulations resulting in a negative report have been largely answered. We will not know that for sure until the Planning Commission receives that update at their March 3rd meeting, and they will decide to change their recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anybody have any questions? We'll start with Mr. Visconti. We'll move that way first, and then we'll make a decision.
Motion first, no?
No, we can discuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through the chair to Attorney Marcus.
Marcus.
Sir. Mr. Marcus, if this lease is turned down, we don't get everything right with Buffalo Wild Wings, what happens then? Are they willing to come back and see what we can do, or are they going to be looking at another place or whatever?
Our understanding is that they'll go with Felsworth because they like the site, but they need to have the minimum seating. They need to have about 360 seats in the restaurant. As it stands now, we can accommodate with the existing parking requirement 228 seats. That's a huge difference for that restaurant. So this site will not work for them if we can't give them the additional parking. As I say, there's probably enough parking for them, but it's only required. So this is, they need it.
Follow-up to that is, you mentioned the horseshoe area where they've been having the horseshoe plays and tournaments. That's not going to be bothered if we approve this extra parking area?
Actually, it won't. They'll just have better parking for the horseshoe area in reality. They'll have a real parking lot.
And one more, if I may, to Mr. Estefan.
Mr. Estefan, the President is requested at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus.
Thank you. I'll stand by.
Councilman. Mr. Estefan, what has to be approved by the FAA in order to make this lease so that we can approve it and get things done? What, if any, problems exist with the runway, which would be right next door?
Well, there'd be no problems with the runway next door. We're not building any objects higher than the fence that is there now. We're just parking cars. The FAA will be looking at how much return on the investment. In other words, the 13,000, I believe, square feet of additional property, they're going to be looking at what the return is going to be to the airport budget so that the airport is given a fair shake. And that's basically where they come from. Of course, they will look at the language to make sure that the standard FAA language is included in that document. So anything that's in there now has been looked at, but right now they're focused on the dollar return.
And would they have their end of it done so that we would be able to vote on this next Tuesday, or is that something?
That we are waiting for an answer on for the two leases that were voted on already to begin with. Okay, so we don't feel that there's going to be a problem given the amount of dollars that are involved here and the amount of area that we're talking about.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. I wouldn't go too far, probably. Just take a seat right there, probably.
We'll be next to the attorney.
Mr. Rotella, well, actually, Mr. Nash had his hand up next, then we'll move to Mr. Rotella. And then
If I could just call on, I don't know if I should ask Mr. Pinter,
why don't you throw it out there and we'll...
I'm going to throw the question out there. Pertaining to the lease and the ramifications of what the petitioner needs in order to move forward with the planning commission. I know during the course of our ad hoc there was confusion as to why are we doing this lease now, or are we putting the cart before the horse? So if somebody could explain what's needed for the petitioner to move forward with the planning commission.
Mr. Knapp, I was remiss before. Mr. Willing Biddle, the president and CEO of UB Danbury, is here, as well as Attorney Rapaglia, representing UB Danbury. Sharon, I think Sharon would probably be the best place to answer that, since she's been as close to the action here as anyone.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Sharon Calitro. I'm the Deputy Planning Director. We had asked the applicant to provide documentation that they have the authority to represent the city on an application to the Planning Commission. And that authority, the same that we do for petitioners who come into planning or zoning with a zone change, would be, in this case, the form of an executed lease. That would show the department and the commission that they had the authority to submit the application and for us to process the application, and then would allow them to make the changes to the property. So the executed leases would be needed prior to the site plan approval, and that would come later from the planning commission.
So the site, if I could, so the site plan approval that we obviously would be looking for, that we saw bits and pieces of tonight, really has not been submitted yet, nor can it be until this lease is intact.
That's partially correct. There is in process a site plan application for occupancy of the Chuck E. Cheese property, the existing Cold Stone Creamery, GameStop, and everyone else who's there, and Buffalo Wild Wings Restaurant at a seating capacity of what amounts to 228 seats. They can accommodate, meet all the zoning requirements on the site and with the two leases that you have executed in the last couple of weeks, or approved, I should say, in the last couple of weeks. This new adjunct parking area has to go through a site plan, a special exception site plan review process before the planning commission. That has not been done yet.
Let's go. Mr. Rotella, and then Mr. Perkins.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to Deputy Calitro and also Deputy Pinter. So, let's just say we move this forward this evening. It will go to the council Tuesday. What will the council then do? What does the council need to do to send this off to planning on the following Wednesday, the next day? And then at that point, assuming, and we can't obviously know what planning is going to do, but let's just assume with Deputy Calitro on board that this will probably get a positive recommendation from planning. So let's say that that happens. What's going to happen Tuesday night, and then what's going to happen Wednesday night, and finally what will be what and how will be the ultimate disposition of this? Thank you.
Mr. Fellow, the chain of events will be this. If the council tonight by majority vote recommends by motion to send the proposed lease forward, subject to the same conditions that were stated at the committee meeting, that lease with the conditions, will be sent to the common council for next Tuesday, city council. I understand how you feel.
Don't feel bad, Les.
Will be sent to the city council next Tuesday night. Now, the city council next Tuesday night, if it chooses basically to restate that same motion, will do it, but next Tuesday will require 2/3 of a vote because you're approving the lease of city property, the conveyance of city property. If the council chooses, you really have to do this, you should say, the motion next week should be by 14 votes to approve, recommend, or to approve the adjunct lease, subject to further approvals by city officials and agencies, together with a positive recommendation by the planning commission to have met the night after the council meeting. And as I alluded to before, as I stated before, if you get the positive report from the commission, then your contingency will be satisfied. And then the lease will then prepare for execution. It won't be executed at that time, but the lease will then be referred to the planning department to have it in their file and possession so that the applicant can then proceed to come in with its plans for that particular expansion and use of that particular parking area. So at that point, you are basically done with that. The council is basically finished with its approval because you will have examined the terms of the lease, you will have approved the terms of the lease, and then the rest of the procedures will follow as any other procedure would follow. You have a piece of land, you have to go through the gauntlets of the application process, considerations of development, building, traffic, other things like that for the adjunct property lease. So that's the procedure after next Tuesday, Paul.
Thanks, just to follow up. If we wanted to overrule, as it were, the planning commission's negative recommendation on Tuesday night, we would need a 2/3 vote to do so.
Yes.
We're not going to be doing that theoretically on Tuesday night. We're simply going to be sending this back to planning, a modified lease back to planning. So I guess what I'm asking you is, do we really need to have a supermajority Tuesday night? Because if we do, it seems to me like we approve it Tuesday night and we're done.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I answered incorrectly. On Tuesday night, your motion should only be an approval if there's a positive recommendation, okay? You shouldn't be adopting a motion that overrides prior to the next night's activity, because I think that would be a less than conservative and probably an ill-advised move, because you always want to reserve to yourself the opportunity to consider why there was a negative recommendation. And you really want to give yourself a chance to discuss that and then override it after the 3rd of March, whenever that would be. So that's why I would recommend that you give yourself the option of getting out totally next Tuesday. We're assuming that on the 3rd, the commission, with all of the work that's been done in the last few days, will probably issue a positive recommendation. But if they don't, then you have to go back.
You can take it up in April.
Or a special meeting.
Right, we can deal with that at some point down the road. Let's hope that we don't have to. Let's hope that it gets cleared up on Wednesday night. But just to be clear, a simple majority Tuesday night will suffice, correct?
Tonight.
And Tuesday.
And Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, you need a 2/3 because you are approving leases, but you're not dealing with the 2/3 needed to override. There's two 2/3 going on. The 2/3 you need is the approval of the conveyance of property
I see, okay.
by charter. The other 2/3 is what you're going to reserve in case you have to, in April, do an override.
Gotcha. That's where I was confused. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Generally speaking, this is a pretty good deal for Danbury. I mean, it won't solve any of our economic woes in terms of job creation and things like that, but it will provide a certain part of the population with some entertainment. I got a few concerns though. A lot of what we're doing here it's just shrouded in contingencies and uncertainty. I'd really like to see, the lease and also some of these other things eliminated. I haven't heard anyone mention anything about the traffic concerns that this whole situation arises also, and hopefully it'll be addressed in part of that planning report. So, I mean, I'm not in the habit of voting on things that I don't have in front of me, and I kind of continue to keep that trend going here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Let's go over to this side. Mr. Kerwin?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to recommend the receipt of the report of the subcommittee in this matter. Approve the adjunct lease as modified since the subcommittee meeting on February 18, 2010, subject to all the local requirements, submissions and approvals as set forth in the motion of the subcommittee and as required by land use agencies, and also conditional upon a positive planning commission recommendation of the proposal as modified.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Mr. Arconti. Other discussion, is there anybody on this side that had any discussion with now the motion? Okay. Anybody on this side? Mr. Nero?
Forgive me, Mr. Chairman, for being a late comer to
That's okay.
this discussion.
You're not
I'm actually, Mr. Chairman, not sure who to address this.
Well, what we do, Mr. Knapp, is very throw it out there and
Thank you.
let's see who that's going to be.
Thank you. My recollection when we did the first two leases, I really need this, can everybody hear me okay? Because this way I can face you. Okay, all right, I'm sorry. My recollection when we did the first two leases, the spirit of that meeting was one in which, where we said, hold on, we're going to be very careful about using, let me see if I state this correctly, publicly owned land for private use. I think there was something in that statement. And we wanted to be very careful about not going forward. It was really stressed in that meeting. The spirit of that meeting was that we're going to be very careful about how we use land going forward. Using that as the basis for my thinking, there are two thoughts. One is, when I look at that map, perhaps it should be obvious to me, but it's not, as to how much land is going to be left. That's one thought. And the other thought, I guess this would be directed to council, is if we do that, do we already have a precedent as to, and again, if my wording is incorrect here, I'm sure someone will straighten me out, of using public land for private use. Do we already have some sort of precedent for that, or is this going to give us a precedent and not being a legal line? I sure don't know that. So I guess those are the two questions. How much land is going to be left after this happens, and what could happen down the road if we do this? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, Mr. Nero, I can deal with the second one first, and then we'll get the information on how much land is left. As far as our precedent is concerned, the entire airport property has a number of leases attached to it. In fact, most of the airport is leased to fixed-based operators. The airport is comprised of, if you will, aviation-related operators to whom the city leases property for long periods of time. There's about 6 FBOs, fixed-based operators. There's also a term that I've used called perimeter leases, which are properties that surround the airport proper, which the city has leased, continues to lease to private firms. Red Lobster, Olive Garden. This property on the corner, J.R.L. Associates, has a parking area building on the corner of Bacchus Avenue in Kenosha, next to the bridge that we're going to be working on pretty soon. So those were 3. We have the subject property also being leased, and we also have an additional lease on the other side on Sugar Hollow Road, which is leased for parking purposes for the dealership there. I forget which dealership, Audi or something?
Yeah, it's Audi Volkswagen.
Audi Volkswagen. So there is precedent in an effort to garner some revenue. The FAA has no objections to these things, so long as they can get a chance to review the leases, as long as they get a chance to examine the revenue stream, make sure that the revenue goes to the airport purposes. This subject lease proposal is similar to those. The only difference is this is a parcel that's not been leased. The adjunct parcel is not a piece that's been leased before, okay? But it's next to parcels that have been leased for many years for the same operation. Right. As the President says, that building on that property is just for parking. So there's precedent. The feeling is, after the negotiations here, that the rent stream received will be substantial, favorable to the city. And that's also consistent. We try to keep the rent as secure as possible, as good as possible. Paul, do you have the information on
Council, it's about a half an acre of property. We're using 13,000 square feet of it, and basically leave a little bit left over there in that area. But let me point out that years ago this was a soccer field, and when we were doing the drainage construction on the airport, I made it a point not to move the stream, which the Army Corps, and I'm going back now almost 20 years, the Army Corps was going to allow us to adjust the stream so that we could cut into that area to take some of the churn out of it so it wouldn't be so vicious when the water came down. So we didn't do that. We left it as a soccer field. And then, of course, we leased out those 2 parking areas for the last 20 years. And I might point out that through my engineers, Hoyle Tanner, they've informed me that we had a waiver from the FAA to go ahead and lease this property. They just do a periodic review of how much dollars we're getting in return for the square footage that we're leasing out. So all in all, you can't put a building on it. We really can't put airplanes on it. And I think this is about the best use we're going to get for this property. Keep in mind that when we remember the fairgrounds, all this was parking, period. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you. You're welcome, Mr. Darrell. Anybody else? Mr. Cheney's?
Through the chair, I just want to make a few comments of what was already stated. I do object to the way this lease came about. I think 2 months ago, I think Councilman Nero stated that we were going to take a slow look at what the best use of this piece would be. And I even recommended that we take this to an ad hoc and see what we really wanted to do with this piece. And 2 months later, here we are. We already went to an ad hoc, we had a public hearing, and we have a lease, but that planning denied that there was so much issues with it that they gave it negative recommendations. And then they already made a corrections to the lease, which this council still doesn't have. And here we are making a positive recommendation to the council as a whole that we approve this lease based on information that we still don't have. You know, there's a lot of issues that I think we still need to look at, whether or not, one, the city really wants to move forward with this. There's traffic concerns, which was brought up a little while ago, that still have not yet been addressed. So I look at this from an issue of, is this what the adverse effect of leasing this property would be to the quality of life in this area? I mean, the west side, and I know I live on that side, I pass this property almost every day, and I see the amount of traffic that's generated from the properties that are already there. And I think by not taking a closer look at this, I think this piece can already only add to the problems that are already existing on Bacchus Avenue. And, I mean, years ago when the fair was there, that was mentioned, that was a small 2-lane road. Now it's a 4-lane road with a major mall on one side, a shopping center on the other, and the amount of traffic that generates there is tripled over the last 4 years. And I do have, and that's one of my concerns I have, that we're not taking a deeper look at this, what the impact of this would have. And a lot of my councilmen don't agree with me with this, but I'm going to vote no this evening until at least I'm made comfortable with whether or not what the true impacts of this lease is going to be.
Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Mr. Taylor? Yes. Through the chair, is it really purveyance of this council to look at parking issues? Isn't that done through planning? Isn't that their purveyance to? We're looking at the lease, but we're not looking at parking issues, are we?
Right, it's a function of the planning division, planning and zoning. The purpose is before us tonight is because it's the lease of city property to a private entity.
So those issues should be addressed through
Absolutely.
planning in their,
right. And I think from what I understand from Mr. Pinter and the police from tonight is that they probably have been, their concerns have probably been addressed, and planning will let us know that. But subject to that, this will all die on Wednesday. The planning commission gives a negative result. because it'll be back before us again in the April meeting for either a denial or an overriding planning if the planning commission gives it a negative recommendation again on the Wednesday night at our council meeting. So this is just sort of grouping this together for a time factor so that we're not losing another month of time in this, so that UB Jamboree can move ahead with their plans, also Wild Wings can move ahead with their plans, and we get kind of the horse in front of the cart, even though it seems like we're putting the cart before the horse, not really. So, Mr. Kelly?
You know, just to follow up, if by chance theoretically the planning, being a new guy, I may not be addressing this properly, but if by chance we did get a negative report from planning, and if it was a feeling of the council that we did want to override that report, would it be possible to call a special meeting to expedite it for the developers, so we would not lose that development, option?
Absolutely, that's certainly an option of the council and the mayor.
Thank you.
If we so choose to do that. Mr. Perry?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a statement to make. I think this is crazy. This is crazy talk. I mean, we heard from planning that they don't even need this parking spot to do what they want to do now. They're telling us they want to rent more space. They want to pay the city more money for property we're not even using. This is a no-brainer. I don't know. We're looking for problems. You talk about traffic. We got a 4-lane highway out there, or a roadway. We got a mall that at Christmas time is packed anyway. You're always going to have traffic down there. I mean, this is just ridiculous. We're beating a dead horse.
Mr. Arnott?
Thank you, Mr. President. At a certain point, government has to be on the same side as business. We all have to be on the same side of the road. I mean, we're talking about it, as Director Estefan said, this is almost a useless piece of property to us. There's nothing scenic, it's a piece of property. Let them park cars in there. I'm happy to take their money. Thank you for offering to pay us more money to the city of Danbury. We need it. And it's going to employ people. It's going to draw people to Danbury. As Councilman Kern said, a 4-lane road down there with all kinds of traffic. It's an absolute win-win, and I'm fully in favor of it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Curtin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there even going to be a planning meeting on Wednesday? Because we may have gotten some news that the meeting's canceled, so is there going to be a planning meeting this coming Wednesday?
Mr. Perkins, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
I'm trying to figure out if there will be a planning meeting this Wednesday, whether or not it's been canceled.
Ms. Glazer?
The regularly scheduled meeting of the planning commission is next Wednesday the 3rd. OEIC is canceled for this week.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to try your minds, and Mr. Visconti has requested a roll call vote, so if the clerk would please call the vote on the roll.
Arconti.
Yes.
Curran.
Yes.
Demichi.
Yes.
Riley. Seabury. Stanley. Taylor.
Yes.
Koloff.
Yes.
Negershev.
Yes.
Alice.
Yes.
Cabo.
Yes.
Sadi. Visconti.
Yes.
Trombetta. Knapp.
Yes.
Nero.
Yes.
Perkins.
No.
Gianese.
No.
Rotello.
Yes.
Ty Schultz.
Yes.
Tumino.
Yes.
For the record, just reflect that Mr. Perkins and Mr. Cheney's voted in the negative. The ayes have it, the motion passes. Thank you. Item number 5, wireless edge lease. Mr. Nagasek, I believe you need to recuse yourself from this. Please take your legal votes. Mr. Pinter.
Appreciate the opportunity. As I say, I'll continue to try to make it as brief as I can so you guys don't have to stay.
Doing a great job.
That was your fault. Please. This item has to do with a proposed cell tower to be located on Peck Road in the northwest section of the city, essentially near Marjorie Reservoir. I had sent the city council correspondence in late December, which was on the January agenda, basically indicating that the background to this was briefly in 2006, the then Common Council, after deliberations, discussions and negotiations, approved, the city executed a lease agreement for the placement of the cell tower by the petitioner, Wireless Edge, at a certain location off Peck Road. The original location was actually more in an easterly direction, closer to some condominium complex in that area, closer to, was that 39 or 37 out there? 37, in that direction. Now, so that was approved in 2006. Wireless Edge, as a side note, has to go through a number of hurdles with the Connecticut Siting Council and others to get its approvals. Fortunately, the city in Danbury in 2009, early 2009 I think it was, asked if Wireless Edge would reconsider the placement of that tower so it's further away from the condominium complex and the residential areas and actually inward more to the west. It's not on the reservoir, but it's closer to the reservoir, further away from the condominiums. Wireless Edge said that would be okay with them, and they were frankly gracious enough not to charge us back for any lease commitments or cost of any revised plans or other arrangements. They provided to us and provided to you at that January meeting that I mentioned before an amended lease document, which basically restates the terms and provisions of the 2006 lease that you approved, with the only real change, the only change being the location of the wireless tower, the Wireless Edge tower, over to the west. The tower would be about 25 feet higher, 25 or 30 feet higher. That's because the new location would be in a lower depression area, so therefore you need the greater height. The tower, actually, real height would be
And that is a wash, technically.
close to a wash. So what is being presented to you is a request to amend the original lease that the Common Council then authorized to allow for the tower to go up in that location, subject again to Wireless Edge going through the procedures. The rent would be the same, the other stipulations would be the same, and what would change is again the location of the tower. Committee reviewed this, and I believe the committee has recommended the approval of this amended lease.
Thank you, Mr. Penner. Any questions from Mr. Penner regarding this? Mr. Visconti?
Thank you, Mr. President. Very quickly, I think if we can get approval for this tower, it's really important to the city and obviously to the people, the companies using the tower, but more importantly, I think Chief Kern will agree with me, we need something like this for both police and fire to improve our radio system. And any way possible, I think this is a step in the right direction. If we can meet with these people and get something going out in that area. Our equipment is getting older, we need to replace the equipment, but also we need to get higher frequencies, as you all know. So I think I'm going to go along with approving this.
Thank you. For those members who are not familiar, Wireless Edge has agreed to place public service antennas on this tower for the city's use I believe without charge to the city for the use of our antennas.
I wanted to mention, Mr. President, if I could, that Mr. John Arthur, representing Wireless Edge, has been to the meetings. He's been very easy to work with, and he's been attending, and if you have any questions, he's available as well.
Mr. Teichel?
Too soon to make a motion?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the approval of an amended lease with Wireless Edge Communications LLC at a relocated site adjacent to Peck Road, subject to approval of the Planning Commission and such other related and necessary approvals as are required of the applicant by law.
Second. Motion's been made by Ms. Teichel and seconded by Mr. Visconti. Any discussion? Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll try your minds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Who made that motion? Mr. Burns made the motion. Who seconded?
I'll second.
Mr. Nero seconded. Mr. Nero. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody. Good night.